If we say it on air, we'll be subpoenaed.
Is there shorts?
There's a name for the shorts.
Shorts. Shirts.
You know, he's sporting the Accra Young, Rich and Famous starter pack.
I like that. Young, rich and
nice
famous.
tea,
Settings.
nice shoes with the medu.
Oh my goodness.
It's either this one or the kaftan with some glasses to go. You know, with the man purse, which is like key requirements.
Wow.
The keys hanging on the side, half shoe. If it's the kaftan, the Accra Young, Rich and Famous starter pack, it'd be so easy. It's one of two. Normally, you would have the kaftan or shirts in the middle. Charlie, he did form. Sijo, he did form.
Oh my goodness, we haven't got Daniel today.
But Charlie, these days the weather is just crazy.
Man,
was it on Wednesday that it rained?
Yeah.
And I checked the temperature and it was still 28 degrees.
Wow. Even after a rain like that, you're expecting the weather to be.
And this was while it was still drizzling. You know, it rained for I think an hour and a half or so, and then it started drizzling. And the temperature was still what it was. So it's been a crazy year.
It's been a crazy.
We're only hoping that from this month,
May,
at least,
June,
it should get wetter. You know,
we live in a country where when it's raining some way. When it's raining some way, movement becomes some way. The capital is flooded. So you don't even know what you want. You don't even know whether you want it in this.
God probably knows the damage.
Charlie, it be some way. When it rains in this country, you are worried. If it's not raining, you have a problem. Charlie Basa, like
whether sunshine or rainfall, there's always problem.
And these days, the telcos have failed to provide us with the kind of connectivity that will make it possible for you to work remote. Because look, irrespective of whoever it is you are subscribed to, the quality of the connectivity. The last time, one of them, I had issues with. You have bundle, you have the package, you've not. The subscription is not expired. You've not exhausted. And when you run into problems and you call them, they will tell you that they will respond to you after 3 days.
Wow.
No, believe me, I don't. When I have problems with these telcos, I don't call. I know they are listening, but it's become a waste of time because those behind those phone calls,
the customer service is,
they have no solution or whatsoever. Sometimes they don't even know what the problem is. And that is the problem, you know.
But the thing is that a chunk of it is being outsourced.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not like they have any real information that solves the problem that is confronting you. It's not. They can only solve Momo problems or how to bundle it.
You know, talking about races, there was a news item I came across. I think was yesterday. It was published about some ECG substation. Charlie, they said the substation flooded. With Johnny's
and they lie.
Johnny's go see them. Do the place make dry,
Charlie.
See this country, everybody.
Do the place make dry, Hey,
Charlie, this country has everybody they lie from.
I'm
the
yet to see a response from the ECG rejoinder or something.
For the way.
This year I've seen quite a number of times. I've seen people tweet it on social media, and they normally put it in tree because it has a lot more meaning. When they say that Onyanko Pompe and no Kwafo. See. It's the most powerful sentence I've seen this whole year because this country, we did lie. So like we did lie. Like we lie to everybody. We lie about everything. Everybody's trying to beat somebody.
Well, interesting. This is Game Plan, and we will try and tell you the truth on the show. Remember, you can join the conversation on 055 11 11 997. That's the WhatsApp line. Of course, you can also join us on Facebook, on X. Use the hashtag Game Plan. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation. Like I mentioned, there's so much to talk about. Let me just mention that Man Electricals, the Chief Executive Officer of Man Electricals, is in studio with us.
Man Enterprise or Man Electrical?
Oh, Man Electrical. Yeah, and he's looking to expand it toward Man Group of Companies.
Group of Companies.
Not Man Group of Companies. Please.
Okay.
Mufti Group of Companies.
Ajay.
He'll go into construction. He'll go into gold. He'll go into Charlie.
in this country, that's how we do it.
Yeah. We do everything.
You must open
even if
your
you're a
wings.
timber company, we suddenly become auditors.
Oh yes, you have to open your wings.
Yeah.
I go come to your company. You go give me that digital something now they do. If I have only 4 months experience, you go give me. We don't be friends. Is that how it works?
They do everything, so.
They do everything. You just go create someone just go create company.
Yeah.
Charlie, the company don't even catch one here.
He just outsources then.
But the kind of jobs
Experts in the field.
Oh God, you go write experts in this, experts in that, experts. What a system we've got, and it helps everyone.
Yeah.
I'll
It doesn't help
you.
anybody. It doesn't.
Actually, if
We
I
just use
also
it
give
to
you, you
rob
know, go take.
ourselves. We just use it to rob ourselves.
Anyway, well, let's get to let's talk about a bit more about sports now because, like I mentioned, there was real exciting Champions League action. We'll get into that. We'll try because it's so much to talk about that next week. And just to mention that next week we are going out, Mufti. Next week we are on the road.
We are on the road.
As we are building up to the Hit FM Rep Your Jersey, festival. And next week we're going to be out. We're going to be talking a lot more about that. But let's just start base with the World Relays because that's happening tomorrow. And Ghana is in it. And Mufti, you've been keeping tabs on it. Fen to join us with more on that. But let me just start with you.
Fen has joined us. Simple.
Oh, really? Fen is on?
Yes.
Oh.
Fen is here.
Okay, great. All right. Not sure. Fen, can you hear me?
Hello, Rasta. You know he's here where?
Fen, can you hear me? All right, I'm sure the technicians.
Okay, they give us thumbs up.
Great,
Rasta
great.
fried rice.
Instead of responding with your lips, you are responding with thumbs up. We okay?
He be like he just woke up.
Guy, go kill him, this man.
All right, great. Well, first, we want to start with you.
What's going on, guys?
Great, man. Great. We just we're just doing what we can here, But let's start with you. Just to start with the World Relays, starting tomorrow. What you got to share with us on that?
Well, basically, this represents basically Ghana's best hope of qualifying for the Olympic Games. Remember that with less than 80 days or so to the start of the Olympic Games, Ghana still doesn't have any individual or group of athletes who have qualified for the Olympic Games, which is a very underwhelming situation for the country to find itself in. Granted, we have not been very good at qualifying many athletes for the Olympic Games. If you look at the last 4 Olympic Games, for example, Ghana has averaged around 10 athletes per games, with the most that we've sent to games being 36 from 2004. But since then, 2008, we sent less than 10 athletes. I believe we were 9 athletes. 2012, it was the same. 2016, I think we sent 16 athletes. And in the last Olympic Games as well, we sent around 12 or so athletes. So we have not been doing really well in terms of qualifying a lot of athletes to the games. And this time around, the standards have increased even more. If you look at the qualifying standards, especially for track and field, they're very, very lofty heights. Because to qualify for the 100 meters, for example, now you need to run 10 seconds flat. Back in the day, 10 seconds was good enough to win you a gold medal at the Olympic Games. That's how difficult it is to qualify now. Thankfully, our relay team and the relay qualification is the one qualification in the Olympic Games and the track and field qualifiers where time does not matter. What really matters is where you place. And the World Relay is happening in the Bahamas this weekend, on Saturday and on Sunday. 14 of the 16 places that will be determined, or that will go to the Olympic Games, will be determined in the Bahamas this weekend. So for relay teams in all the relay events, and we are talking mixed 4x4, we are talking 4x1, 4x4 men and women, and then 4x1 men and women. All of those relay places will be determined in Bahamas this weekend. 14 places. Now, remember that at the Olympic Games, the relay teams that will be competing, there will be only 16 teams. Okay, so only 16 countries will have teams competing in the relays at the at the Olympic Games. And 14 of those places will be determined in the Bahamas this weekend, with the remaining 2 places only coming to the ranking. So let nobody deceive you and tell you that Ghana's relay team, the time is good and they ranked here, ranked there. It doesn't matter. What matters now is to go to the Bahamas and make sure you qualify. And to qualify in the Bahamas, you have to do 2 things. Okay, on day 1 of the competition, we'll run the heat. Remember, there are 32 teams, 32 countries who are competing for 14 places in the Bahamas this weekend. Now, this is how the 14 places will be determined. And those 32 teams competing there, Ghana is one of them, luckily. Now, for those 14 places, on day 1, the 13 teams, the 32 teams, I beg your pardon, that are in Bahamas will be divided into 4 heats of 8 teams. So 8 times 4 will give you 32. So heat 1 will have 8 teams, heat 2, 8 teams, heat 3, 8 teams, heat 4, 8 teams. And this is for all the relay events. But for the sake of Ghana, we are talking only 4x1 because we've only taken 1 team to this qualifying. We don't have a 4x4 100-meter team. We don't have a mixed relay team. We don't have any other relay event that we are competing in except the men's 4x1. We don't even have women's 4x1. So we are only attempting to qualify with the men's 4x1. And with the men's 4x1, there are 2 ways we can qualify or we can grab one of those 14 tickets. Now, on day 1, those 4 heats, Ghana will be, and a little later today, we will find out which heat Ghana finds itself in. But whichever heat Ghana finds itself in, the only way they can qualify on day 1, for example, is to finish in the top 2. So I will be run on Saturday, which is tomorrow. The top 2 in each of the heats will qualify to the final of the World Relays. But qualifying to the final will also book you an automatic ticket to the Olympic Games, which means that on day 1, 8 teams out of those 4 heats will qualify. The top 2 in each heat will automatically make the final and then book their ticket to the Olympic Games. Now, for all those who have not qualified on day 1, having finished in the top 2 on day 1, on day 2, they will then put them into 3 heats again of 8 teams each. And then of those 3 heats, the top 2 in each heat will qualify for the Olympic Games as well. So that will make 6 teams to add to the 8 that qualified on day 1, and you have your 14 overall from the Bahamas. So it's really that simple. In order to qualify, we'll have 2 races to finish in the top 2 to qualify. On day 1, if we finish in the top 2 in any of the heats or in our heat, we will qualify for the Olympic Games. If we don't finish in the top 2 on day 1, then we try again on day 2, which is on Sunday. And on day 2, it's the same criteria. Finish in the top 2, and then you qualify for the Olympic Games. So we have 2 attempts to try and qualify for Paris 2024. If we blow both of those chances, then we have a very, very slim, very minute chance of qualifying. Because remember that there will be 16 teams at the Olympic Games. 14 will be determined in the Bahamas. So those 2 remaining places are the only ones that will come to the ranking. And that is a dangerous game to play because then it means that you have to get into as many competitions as possible and make sure that in the whole world, you rank in the top 2 outside of those who have qualified automatically from Bahamas. So that is a much more difficult proposition for anyone. And for me, I think our best chance of qualifying will be at these games. Now, one other thing that we need to...
Yeah, just before you continue, though, you're talking about the 2 ways in which we can qualify. I just want to know, I mean, realistically, based on the athletes we have paraded in this relay, what the chances of Ghana really look like. And also about the women, though, just to understand, because somebody will be thinking, why did we not have a women relay team there to also, try and qualify for the Olympics? Why don't we have a women's team there? And just also touch on the chances based on the athlete we've sent there of Team Ghana.
All right. So the first question, the realistic chances that this team has of qualifying based on the athletes that we have. Well, this is not now this relay team, the men's 4x1 that we've had, this is probably, in my opinion, the weakest in terms of an assembly of athletes over the last 5 years since this team burst onto the scene. And I've used the word weakest very, very loosely because you have probably the same group of athletes, but they're running slower this time around compared to the other times when they had run together. You look at the Ghanaian record, which they set back at the Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020, and then which they lowered again at the World Championships in Oregon in Eugene. They are running slower individually compared to how fast they were running in that period when they set that Ghanaian record. The issue, however, with relays is that it really doesn't matter how fast or how quick your athletes are. What matters most is who can get the baton across the quickest. And sometimes, as we saw at the African Games, any slight mishap in changing the baton could cost you. And for me, that is the biggest challenge this team has, because they might have Joseph Paul Amor and Benjamin Amasemati, but you're looking at two members of the team who have never run with this relay team together. Now, you look at the team that we even had at the African Games, and you notice that we have two of them who ran in Accra who will not be running at these World Relays. Now, Solomon Hammond, who ran that third leg in Accra, is not part of this team going to the Bahamas. You also have Edwin Gadai, who started in Accra, who ran the first leg. He is not part of this team. And in his place, you have the 200-meter finalist from the African Games, Ibrahim Husseini. He's been drafted into the team. There's also a place for Isaac Bosio as well, who is the fastest Ghanaian athlete so far this season of 100 meters. And then, surprisingly, they've drafted in a late inclusion in the team, Sean Safu Enchi, who had been a member of his team for the longest time. But he's not shown himself to be getting any faster. He's growing older. He's getting slower. But he's been drafted in as the fifth athlete. I think my understanding is that he might not be starting in there, but he's a substitute athlete. If you look at Isaac Bosio, he's running 9.90, even if he's win assisted. And I think from all indications, he looks like the guy that could start. And he's been running really well. Rather unfortunate that he didn't make it at the African Games. And he was one of those athletes that didn't make the games, not necessarily because of any travel complications. He just didn't make it because he wasn't selected. It was after that he went on and ran that really rapid 9.90, even if that was win assisted. So he's in the team, and that's a quick start that they have in the for the starting leg. Then you have the second leg, which will be run by Benjamin Azamati. He didn't run as part of the team last weekend in the pen relays because he was running a race of his own. But still, he's not even been able to run. He's done 10.03 this season, but also win assisted. And that's the fastest he's gone this season. He's had his issues, injury concerns here and there, so he's not running as fast as he usually does. But again, he's very experienced at running that back straight, so he's expected to be in there. I think the biggest and the newest inclusion in the team, the biggest excitement is Ibrahim Husseini. He finished fourth over 200 meters at the African Games, a really young athlete, 21 years of age. He's running very well, a 200-meter specialist, so he would be very good for that bend. And we saw him at the pen relays running that bend really superlatively. And then Joseph Paul Amor, however slow he is, we know that he's African champion over 200 meters, and he's shown that in running that ankle leg, there are very few athletes in the world that do it better than him. So I think by and large, it's a very exciting team, great prospect, and the most essential thing for them is how much practice they've had together and how fast they can get that baton across. I am very confident personally that if they don't have issues with their baton change, certainly in these two races, there is potential that Ghana could finish in the top two and book a place at the Olympic Games. If they don't, it would be a monumental failure. Now, why the women are not here? Well, the teams are not handpicked, because remember that in the whole world, we have over 206 national teams who would be interested in competing at the Olympic Games and qualifying athletes in these relays, but only 32 of them are in the Bahamas. How did they arrive at that? It's cumulative performances. And if you look at our relay team, the women especially, they have not competed anywhere on a global stage since 2019. We are talking the World Championships in 2019. So they've not been in great form. Their time has not been good enough. So they simply haven't qualified. They haven't put together enough consistent performances to cumulatively qualify them to the World Relays. Because the World Relays isn't just about entering any team whatsoever, but it's also down to performances over the last few years. And if you accumulate the performances by our women's 4x100 meter relay team, they simply have not done good enough to merit a place at the World Relays, and that's why they are not there. So big ask, big chances, big opportunities, 2 big ones on Saturday and on Sunday. And I am confident personally that this team can book a ticket. The most important thing that they have to do is get that baton across as quickly as possible.
Interesting.
Now, how fast they have run this season does not matter, Musbao. It doesn't matter where they rank right now. It does not matter. What matters is in Bahamas, in Nassau, on Saturday, on Sunday. That is all that matters. Get that baton across as quickly as possible. Make sure you finish in the first 2 on day 1. If you don't, make sure you finish in the first 2 on day 2. On day 1, if they finish in the first 2 and qualify for the finals, they will be running in the final, also competing for money, other than just qualifying for the Olympic Games. So there's more at stake for those that make the final on that first day. It's also worth pointing out that, there is not, to be fair, there is not a lot of teams that have fielded, even, for example, their strongest athletes for these games. Now, I was just going to the lineup for a lot of the other countries that are at these games. And you take the USA, for example, Noah Lyles is their biggest athlete in there. And they don't have 3 of the athletes that won the gold medal at the World Championship in Budapest last year. So, a lot of the countries have brought teams that have not necessarily been their top teams from the last few years. But these are countries with very talented athletes wherever you look. So that is not underestimating them. But that is also pointing out that if we don't make it, it wouldn't be because the other teams were superlatively better. It would be because maybe we just kind of messed up a little bit. But I'm confident that this team will come away with an Olympic ticket for sure.
I mean, great. Let me just bring the guys in there. Well, I'm just looking at the 2020 Olympics, the Summer Olympics. I see in athletics we had 7 representing athletics. We had 3 for boxing. We had 1 for judo. We had 2 for swimming. We had 1 for weightlifting. And as of today, we don't even have a single athlete haven't qualified for the Olympics. Does that come as a surprise? And actually, I know you've been following the Black Bombers. I think they have a qualification in Thailand. I don't know whether they've gone and returned for that. Bangkok. But guys, are you surprised? Let me just start with you.
It's at the end of this month, actually.
Yeah, are you surprised that as of now, Ghana is yet to have a single athlete qualifying for the Olympics?
No. I think the history of all of our prominent athletes have been well documented on this platform. If you go through all of the qualifiers that we participated in and failed to make the grade, Senegal in September, I think last year, earlier this year, we went to Busto Arsizio in Italy. We couldn't hack it, not even one. I think we went to Senegal with a team of 12. We went to Busto Arsizio with a team of 7, and cumulatively we've simply not been good enough. And there is something to say about the quality of the boxers that we're producing, and it's not for nothing that if you look through the boxers that won gold for Ghana at the African Games, all of them were boxers who had gone professional and had come back into the amateur ranks, which is to say that we are no longer producing enough quality from the amateur ranks. And maybe it is too early at this point because we only resumed the National Boxing League, which is for the amateurs, probably 18 months ago, or was it two years ago?
That's about 18 months ago. Almost
18
2
months.
years. Almost 2 years.
Yes. So at this point, you probably would want to maybe cut them some slack. But it is worrying that we have gotten to that stage. And if you look at the structure that we have in place at the moment, is there anything that we have done differently in terms of how we produce these boxers and where they come from? How are they trained? Who trains these boxers? I will never stop talking about the fact that there is only one 3-star IBA certified trainer in the country. If he doesn't train you, if you don't find yourself in his gym, there is a great disconnect between the demands of the modern sports, the techniques and the principles that underpin boxing today, and what is being used to teach today's kids. Right now, some of the things that came out from the African Games, and it wasn't just about boxing. You had other athletes talking about the need for us to have in place a national sports culture that is not only relevant in the context of major competitions. So when we had all of these nutritionists, and when the cycling incident happened, we quickly got a psychologist into the team's camp and all of that. Those are things that are foreign, that are alien to Ghana's elite athletes. They only experience that once every 4 years when they are getting ready for the Olympics, and that is after they have qualified for the Olympics. So until that point, what they eat is not checked, what they drink is not checked, the lifestyles and how much it can become even a stumbling block in their road to success. No one has any idea. There's nothing scientific about the way we practice sports in this country. And central to that is because there is no national sports policy that says that for this year, this is what we're going to do. And that's why for me, I don't even want to focus on the individual federations and all of that, because those are easy targets. You need to have a collective plan about what you want to do with sports in the country. That and what people will sometimes loosely call policy convergence. What it does for you is that if you have a plan of what you want to do for each discipline, that plan will, if you break it down, will entail the number of athletes you want to produce across board. It would entail the cost of producing those athletes. Who are the resource persons? Who are the trainers or the instructors at each level? How much is it going to cost to produce the caliber of trainers or the instructors that you're looking for, right? So then you look at where you are going to raise money to train all of these people. When it comes to athletics, when it comes to the sprints, when it comes to long jump, high jump, and those areas, we've been fortunate because of the scholarship system that exists, that the GAA have done very well to essentially establish. So even when we are not really investing in the training of our athletes, or we're not giving them world-class facilities, with a bit of hard work, if they get a scholarship into the States and they decide not to drop the athletics and continue, they are getting world-class trainers, they are getting world-class facilities. If they come from a good family with some money, they can actually pay and participate in some competitions and test their talent against the rest of the world. Otherwise, you have a situation where if you are someone like Abeku Jackson and you come from a very supportive family, and his father has pumped a lot of money, made a lot of sacrifices to get the boy to that level. But how many Ghanaian families will be prepared to allocate that kind of resources behind a kid that wants to focus on sports? So there may be, and from 2012, 2013, 2014, there were quite a number of these swimmers that emerged, these sprinters that emerged. But how many of them have fallen by the wayside? Sometimes it's not always because the athletes themselves is not good, but the structure in place, the institution that would ensure that we are deliberate about developing these athletes, that we can actually spot which area of their game is not developing. So, for example, if Abeku had stayed in Ghana and did not really have the sort of enlightened family, let me put it that way, who will be able to tell that this is the sort of trainer that you need to help your game grow. The mere fact that he had an interest in swimming would have been enough. And they probably could have misprofiled him and pushed him into one of the subcategories where he would not be great at it. Right? But the fact that you can swim doesn't mean that you'll be great at everything in swimming. Backstroke, breaststroke, all of these subcategories that are there, you need to identify, because just as it is in sprinting, there are those who have crazy finishes, like Benjamin Azamati, like Joe Paul, right? They are unique in their skill set in how they finish the race. So once you understand their skill set and how they run, and if you break their game down, the first 50-meter dash, the final 40-meter dash, who clocks what time, under what conditions, you then will be able to tell that, okay, for the anchor leg, Mr. A is suited to it, right? And so you do not waste his time by asking him to go and start the race in the relays. But all of this is possible when you have the people who know these talents and understand the sport and can do it. How many of these athletes have fallen by the wayside in Devego, in Kojokrom, in Dambai? Because even before they got to the secondary school level, the kind of expertise required to identify the talent and make sense of that talent simply did not exist.
Well, let me come to Sicho, and then I'll just come to Mufti on this, and we can wrap it up on
I don't know why.
the Olympics.
What is Fenty wearing on his wrist? Fenty, what are you wearing on your wrist? Is it your wife's bracelet or something?
Oh, this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, my niece gave it to me this morning.
Don't mind me. But listen, it's not disappointing that Ghana finds itself here. We don't prepare for things and we don't plan for things. We only show up and try to do things. We had a great opportunity of growing a new breed of athletes and maybe then preparing for what is to come this year, because in the last 2 years or 3, in fact in the last 5 years or 4 years, we've known that we would host the African Games. Now, when countries show desperation in trying to win bids to host certain events, the aftermath of those events are also planned for. So they are planning before the event, during the event, and post the event, what they benefit from it. If we had any plan or whatsoever, and the African Games we hosted clearly showed us that we could pump all the money into building the infrastructure we saw at Boteman. We could finish up the University of Ghana Sports Stadium. We could do a couple of things, but we could not prepare our athletes because we didn't plan for the post events. So a serious country that takes sports seriously is going to look at, yes, we are hosting, but we want to do great. So in the last maybe 2 years, 3 years leading to the event, you have a great module that prepares athletes. There's one thing being talented, and there's one thing being an elite athlete. And that is why there are some people who are not talented, but they can be elite athletes, because there are things that requires a human being to be able to perform at the highest level, at the elite level. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't lay those foundations. We don't give athletes that platform. And so when you look at our performance at the African Games, the storylines were not great. Why? We didn't prepare these athletes. And we knew the Olympic Games were just around the corner. And so even if the African Games wasn't going to be that stepping stone to get them into the Olympics, all the other events that were leading to the African Games, or like in Bahamas that we'll see, or like all the other events that are coming through, we would have had, with a plan, athletes doing their best to try and get into the Olympic Games. Because what sense does it make that a country hosts these games,
And after that, that's
and after that, that's it? Like the Olympic Games just months after.
Not even just after that. Without even ensuring that we use the games as an opportunity for the athletes to qualify.
That's what I'm saying. So what sense does it make that you host the African Games and few months afterwards the Olympic Games, your athletes are not going to be represented? What sense? No. What was the essence of hosting the African Games? What sense does it make? You know. So for me, there are no surprises here. We cannot do what we do and expect that. And my biggest disappointment has always been for these talented athletes who have put so much effort in trying to be elite athletes, but the country has continuously let them down. That for me is my biggest disappointment. Because nobody can tell me that these athletes that we have around are not talented. But Fentio will tell you, Achu will tell you, Mufti will tell you, everybody knows. Talent has never been enough. There was a time where talent was all you needed. You can even drink, you can booze, and once you are talented, you win. In 2024, talent is not enough. You need certain things to go your way. Preparation, planning, to be able to maximize the talent that you've got. And unfortunately, we've not been able to maximize the potentials we have in these athletes of ours. And that for me is the disappointment I have. And I feel so sorry for them. Whatever they achieve wouldn't be their fault. It would be the country letting them down.
I think there's
And Mufta, even before Mufta comes in, I just want to add something briefly to what Sicho said. Then Mufta can come in. Now, he hit the nail on the head. Sicho hit the nail on the head when he says the country has not helped our athletes. Let's just put this into perspective, and I'm glad Mufta is here. Now, Abeku Jackson, okay, Achu alluded to him and how much investment his father had put into him, and we were all in very excited mode when he won silver in the 50-meter butterfly event at the African Games. Now, how many of you all remember how long Abeku Jackson has been competing for Ghana since he burst onto the scene? I think he burst onto the scene. His first international competition was definitely at the Rio 2016 Olympics. Yes. He was a teenager, very, very young. And we expected that at the time when he went for those games, we also had Kaya Forcing. I think most of you will remember. Yeah. A very young athlete at the time as well. And we had so many other young athletes. At the time, you remember there was a famous phrase that emerged where we said that was the personal best Olympics. You remember?
Yes.
Where the Ghana Olympic Committee said that we should all be excited that they were sending 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds to the Olympic Games who were doing personal bests at this event. I remember famously in the swimming, the other athletes finished almost a minute before Kaya Forcing came across, and the people said we should clap because it's a personal best and she's doing well. And then we were all convinced to believe in the dream and that the country was going to go on and invest in these athletes. 4 years later, we didn't see any of them at the Tokyo Olympics. The only one we actually saw at the Tokyo Olympics was Abeku Jackson. And again, Abeku Jackson also was not getting any faster. He went into the pool. He didn't make it out beyond the first round. Now, since then, 2020, now look at Abeku Jackson's progression. In the 50-meter butterfly, which is his expert event, his personal best in that event is 22.92 seconds. 22.92 seconds. And that happened in March 2020. Now, it's been exactly 4 years since Abeku Jackson made that time of 22.92, his personal best in the 50-meter butterfly. And this was recorded in the African Zone 2 Ghana Championships here in Accra. 4 years later, Sicho, Achu, Mufta, Abeku Jackson has not come anywhere near that time. 22.92. Now, keep that time in mind. 22.92 seconds, 4 years ago. Now, Abeku Jackson, as you're aware, won silver at the last African Games. Now, even the silver medal that he won at the last African Games, he won it swimming in a time of 24.23 seconds. His personal best is 22.92. He got the silver medal here with 24.23 seconds. That is 4 years later, and he's only 24 years old. Is he supposed to be getting faster at this age or slower? Now, you look at the qualifying mark for that same event for the Olympic Games. Can anybody guess what time you must make in the 50-meter butterfly to qualify for the Olympic Games? 21.96 seconds, which is almost a second faster than Abeku's personal best. So Abeku Jackson is a 2-time Olympian. And even after 2 Olympic Games and countless investment from his father and all of the so-called help that we say we are pushing from the country, he is not even good enough to make the qualifying mark for the Olympic Games. Not once in his entire career has he been able to swim the Olympic qualifying mark. So, and that is why in all the previous times that he's been to the Olympic Games, and as it is with these Olympic Games, he will only go there as a wild card. Now, after all these years, should we really be depending on wild card to qualify athletes or to get us? Because wild card is basically charity work. Yeah. It's like, oh, you can't qualify anybody for the Olympic Games, but you know, for equal opportunity's sake, you take 2 slots, bring your 2 best. That is how wild card works.
Wild card is like IMF.
Yeah. Thank you. It's like
IMF.
So it's like you're not good enough, all right? Yeah. But because the Olympic Games is an inclusive competition, you know, we want everybody to compete. So you two, you know what, you take 2 slots. Abeku Jackson at this point should not be a wild card qualifier.
No way.
He should be making the stand. And that is the point. But here's the question. So the question then is, in that period that we said we were taking 16-year-olds to the Olympic Games, 17-year-olds, including Jackson himself, how much investment have we made in him to try to make him better?
Friends,
the same thing can be said of Azamati. How is Benjamin Azamati, at 21 years of age, running 9.90 seconds 4 years ago and setting the national record? And then 4 years later, the same athlete can't even make 10.00 seconds to qualify for the Olympic Games. How do you explain that?
So, friends, when
he made the national record, how much help did the country give him? I'll take you back to someone like Blessing Okagbari. When she first burst onto the scene, Nigeria gave her money, $50,000, to go and hire a coach, hire a nutritionist, and hire all these professionals to help her get better. And they reap the rewards in leaps and bounds, because Blessing Okagbari became not just a national hero, but she became a global superstar. She brought to them a lot of, even kid sponsorship came to Nigeria athletics because of Blessing Okagbari. The state invested in her. Question: have we invested in Azamati when we saw that potential, when he was breaking national record while being a university student? How much did the country invest in his talent? 0. That's how much. Joseph Palama went to the Commonwealth Games and won Ghana's first medal in over 30 years. In fact, in over 40 years, I believe.
48 years.
Thank you very much, Muftau. After that, what did we do for him? Do you remember?
No, man.
What did we do for him? If I tell you what work he does in the US to survive and to sponsor himself to trainings, you will all be shocked. And this is a national hero. He came here.
Don't embarrass the boys.
Thank you. He came here. He won a gold medal, and we're all jubilated. Everybody wanted to take a picture with him. After that gold medal, what did we do? The $3,000 we promised him, we have not given him yet. So, Sicho is very right when he says, you can't reap where you have no sown. And that is what we've been trying to do. And that's why, up to now, with 80 days or so to the Olympic Games, we don't have a single athlete who has been able to make the qualifying mark.
And it's not like we've been unlucky. We don't deserve to be there.
It's unbelievably poor.
Well, let me make a quick intervention.
Yeah, just before you make a quick intervention, let me just, we haven't heard from Mufti on this.
No. Let you make your
The answer to the rhetoricals, I know, French was, if we were a serious country, Abeku Jackson, Joe Paul, Azamati, they would not be competing for Ghana. You know why? You see the Egyptian teams and all of those teams that came to the African Games, and they were bragging about having national teams, like national athletics teams and all of that. What they do is that the country is investing into competitions. They have instructors. They've paid all of these officials and all of who train the athletes. So while they may not have $50,000 for every athlete like they did for Nigeria did for Okagbari, they would have.
They even did same for.
They will probably recruit about 10 or 15 of the psychologists 10 or 15 of the nutritionists, all of these experts, to work with the national teams. And they have a ranking system. So if within a period of 6 to 4 elite competitions, Azamati goes and they realize that consecutively he's not making the time, automatically Azamati drops.
And that is only after they've given him the platform
Yes.
to perform at the elite level.
So those competitions are there. Like, that is just the infrastructure in place. That is the final aspect of the policy or whatever plan that they have. So they've groomed the athletes. They've pumped money into hiring these instructors and everything that they need to do. Those competitions only determine who the country spends the money on, right, at the elite level. If, like in the case of Abeku Jackson, he goes 3-4 competitions, 5-6 competitions over a 4-year period, and still we are beginning to see sustained regression. He drops out of the national pool. But in our case, we're not doing any of that.
Because Abeku is investing in himself.
Yes. So
he's
person
he's
who
using his own money.
The person who is
he's
funding
in Russia
himself
now, taking care of himself.
The person who is funding himself, look, if any of our athletes who are abroad or are self-sustaining athletes, and all that's the case for all of our athletes, we don't have any full-time professional athletes in Ghana. If any of them decides that, you know what, I won't represent Ghana again, we are done. We won't have anyone that would say that we made significant investment into this athletes. So Muftar will probably I want one of the things I want him to talk about is the length we had to go to beg some of the athletes to come and represent us for the African Games. Where's Deborah Akwa?
Yeah, Deborah had a very, very troubling experience. Representing us at the Commonwealth Games.
We made her promises and never
goodness.
honored those promises.
It was unbelievable.
Yes, we promised to take her through a surgery process. That promise was never honored. So,
but how do you lie to sick people? Like, no, like how do you lie to people who are injured and they need medical help?
So that's the most powerful statements I've read all year.
No, Mufti, it's worth just reiterating that point. What was the promise to Deborah?
Oh, please.
No, it is worth reiterating.
Okay, so when we went for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, prior to flying from Eugene, because we were in Eugene together, prior to flying to Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games, she had an injury, and in fact, she jumped at the World Champs with an injury.
So Deborah Akwa is a long jumper.
A long jumper.
Great.
So the Ghana Olympic Committee promised her that they were going to take care of her surgery if she comes to compete at the Commonwealth Games.
Okay.
She came. She agreed. She came because the promise was there that we'll take care of your surgery. We'll give you some financial support and all that. That was why she flew from Birmingham to Ghana after the Commonwealth Games. And when she went to the Commonwealth Games, her first jump, absolutely, 694, which got her to win the bronze medal in the Commonwealth Games. So after that, they came to Ghana. Sikanuai. You say you helped me go through a surgery. Charlie, the girl tired. The support never came. She had to fly back. You recall that interview she had with Fencio in Budapest? I'm sure she had piled up the disappointment to the extent that she just needed to explode. And when Fed gave her the microphone, she just started. She just opened fire. She dropped the fire on everyone.
As is that she's not spoken to anyone on record again. Like she talked to you, but just not on record.
Opened fire. So I think that we've disappointed our athletes so much. Fent will tell you, when you speak to these athletes and you have an idea about the challenges they have behind the scenes, it's quite disappointing. Can you even imagine during the African Games, these athletes were walking from their hotels or wherever they were, or they were picking their own taxi just to come and train and come and race for Ghana? A competition we're hosting in our very own country. and we rented over 200 buses
Okay, people were in
and
pickups to
cars.
go and compete main events. People were at the back of pickups to go and compete at main
Well,
events.
they
By
gave
the
us
way,
an
speaking
excuse
of
for
the
that.
African game story,
Sal,
me and
Sal,
Nana, we
tell
did
the people- tell
a
the
story
people-
on it, like a callback of the games itself.
Fence wants to say something.
No, I said tell the people that I don't think any of you knows this, but you know we spent 60 million on the games village. Ghana's athletes did not live there. I'll tell them where they lived.
Please.
No, true. Our athletes did not reach the games village.
No, at the moment
Fetch
you are not
your-
in Ghana, so you
fetch
can
your-
say it.
fetch
Muftau,
your-
if he says if he goes out, no, it will be catch up. So you know the Ghana, so you go fit talk.
I'm not
Where
traveling
they
yet.
live?
I'm not traveling yet.
No, true. Our athletes
but-
did not live in.
Yeah,
the
no.
Ghanaian athletes did not
Most
live
of
in
our
the games
athletes did not
village.
live in the games village. They put some of them at Pentagon, which was quite terrible. Fence, I don't know whether if it is okay to go in detail, but because you're speaking about Olympic Games,
No, don't digress. You go
but
on with your point.
I just feel that we actually did not give our best when it comes to getting our athletes ready to participate in the African Games and getting them ready to qualify for the Olympics. In fact, when athletes needed the Legon Stadium for training and all that, they prioritized preparations for opening ceremony and closing ceremony over athletes training. Because how much were we paying for that? We were paying about, is it 4.5 million, or they actually were saying $8 million for opening and closing ceremonies. So athletes training was not considered a priority. And if the games were about the athletes, and you choose your opening and closing ceremonies over the athletes training, what exactly are you communicating to these athletes? That's one area that we will all look at and go like, the country indeed let down these athletes. But let me just come back to the point of us not being able to qualify athletes yet. We've not created a platform for these athletes to be able to qualify. There hasn't been a deliberate plan as to how we want our athletes to qualify. Fentio cited the example of Okagbari, who did incredible stuff for Nigeria. Toby Emusan currently, who is one of the fastest when it comes to the women's 100 meters hurdles. She actually has state support. But we are a country that, in fact, our athletes are actually even doing us a favor by availing themselves to run for us. Because what actually have we done for them to be able to stay at the top there? The moment we had these athletes doing sub-10s, that was an opportunity for us to see and know that if we invest in these athletes, they have the potential of winning us medals when we go for major competitions. Because it doesn't come better than having your athletes doing sub-10. You had Ben doing 9.90. You had Job doing 9.94. You had Joe being able to do about 22 seconds in the 200 meters. And so we had an opportunity to be able to build a team that could represent this country and win us medals. But when they win, we rejoice in the glory and forget about the fact that it's just a flash. And if we don't invest in these athletes by giving them opportunities to enter into major competitions and compete against the best, how do we expect them to stay at the top there? This year, like you heard from Fent, Ben who was doing 9.90 is even struggling to do sub-10. That's a problem for us. Isaac Bocho, he's considered the fastest man, though it was wind aided, like you heard from Fentio, in the 100 meters. Now we have to drag in Sean Samfo Entry to be part of the team because we have a challenge. When we went for visas, expedited process was not granted to the team for us to be able to send Edwin Gadai to go for the games. So we have disappointed these athletes so much so that it comes back to haunt us personally. Because we always say, oh, it is our flag. But when we go out there, we want the flag to be flying, forgetting that we have deliberately pulled down the flag to fly lower instead of flying high.
Game plan. I've got Sicho, I've got Achu, I've got Muftau in studio. And of course, Fence is joining us via Zoom all the way in Obimanso. Yeah, Obimanso.
He will be watching the relays at close range.
Fent has to come back with stories because Nassau will be very, very historical place.
You don't mention no, you just give away the location.
but everybody knows where the World Relays is happening.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you are in Bahamas, you are in Nassau for the World.
So the Bahamas where people they go, they chill. No,
Sally.
that way they. Hey.
But be friends have a shock for him small. I think I say go call him then in background of some
Baby girls.
Hey, focus on
some trees.
Some window make you see things.
Talking about
You
baby
will call
girls.
you make you show you things. You did white wall in front. Are you okay, my brother?
See, don't come back stressed. Detox and distress. In fact, everything for there. Leave the stress there.
I've been practicing for beach walks. I went to buy some beach clothes. When I wore that thing, Charlie, the way my stomach was looking, I said, "Nah, this is
By the way, do so 2 days. We'll be ready.
Enjoy before you come."
brother. I saw the people lamenting yesterday. I said, I cannot relate.
I bet we will not be seeing twist at 2 a.m. again because you'll be sleeping.
No, Charlie. He's enjoying in Nassau, Charlie.
Yeah, man.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me just tell you also about the Joy FM Mother's Day, because during the month of May, Joy FM is giving you the opportunity to express your gratitude to the woman who has been there for you through thick and thin and has impacted your life in numerous ways. And I thank you, Mommy Promo. Share your stories of gratitude with us from the 1st to the 4th of May, telling us in a few words about the sacrifices she has made, the care she has provided, and the moments that have made her so special to you. You can submit your stories via WhatsApp to the number 055 969 1797. 055 969 1797. Whether it's a touching memory, a moment of courage, or a simple gesture that made all the difference, we want to hear from you. Thank you, Mommy. It's powered by Joy FM and sponsored by Woodin Le Créateur. I hope I said it right? Yeah. Le Créateur. Anyway.
My French is bad.
Yeah, French is bad.
So I will mislead you.
You didn't take French serious.
I will mislead you.
You didn't take French serious.
I never even sat class for one.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about the Globe Productions also, in partnership with the Embassy of Italy, present The License. Is a clash of worlds where fate meets law. An exciting adaptation of Nobel Prize winner Luigi Pirandello's timeless classic by Latif Abubakar. Witness the collision of reality and illusion live at the Conference Center on the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th of May. It's 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. on the weekend, 7 p.m. on Monday. You just need to dial *447 *1092 hash to buy your ticket, or visit Joy FM, but on a Total and Airport Shell. Call 0571 900 900 for details. The license is sponsored by Remy Choice, AI Pay, and MNC Group, supported by Graphic News Plus app and Joy Entertainment, powered by Globe Production. Globe Productions, experience the best. Well, now we want to switch to something very exciting, something really exciting, because that's what's unfolded at the Allianz Arena on Tuesday and at the Signal Iduna Park on Wednesday. And it has gotten everybody talking ahead of what will happen next week. And let me just give you a little teaser of what we're about to talk about, because while we look forward to next week is even going to be explosive, super explosive, because of what Joy Sports has got for you. But this is where we're going to next. Yeah, this moment, if your team is in the Champions League, you have a reason to smile. If you're neutral, then you're just watching for the love of the game. You're definitely just watching for the love of the game. And it's Champions League Semi-finals, and of course we've seen the first leg of the semi-final happen Tuesday. Bayern Munich and Real Madrid sharing the honors, and on Wednesday Borussia Dortmund, of course, winning against Paris Saint-Germain 1-0. There was so much talk about Jaden Sancho's performance, and and Dortmund, tweeted something. I don't know whether it's a subtle jab. I'm sure Sicho will try and help us understand what was going through the mind of Dortmund. I don't know that. Charlie, these days there's violence everywhere. Violence everywhere. But just before we get into the games that happened today, let me just tell you that you can join Joy Sports this week for thrilling UEFA Champions League semi-final action. I'm talking about come next week as we build up to the Hit FM Rep Your Jersey on 1st June, live from the Aviation Social Center. On Tuesday, next week Tuesday, we'll be at the Kitas Lounge in Mataheko to witness Paris Saint-Germain take on Borussia Dortmund as they look to overturn the 1-goal defeat in the first leg, and we'll be there at the Kitas Lounge in Mataheko on Tuesday, so you can join the Joy Sports team there. Then on Wednesday, you can catch us at the Heritage Bar in East Legon for the clash between record champions Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. So Heritage Bar in East Legon on Wednesday. Don't miss out on the excitement as these football giants battle for a spot in the final. Live on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Hit 103.9. Your home of UEFA Champions League football. So make a date with us come next week as we all see which teams will advance to the finals. Well, let's come to it now. Let me start with you, Sicho, though. It started on Tuesday with Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, and it was a great tactical game in the second half. 11 minutes into the second half, then Thomas Tuchel, not sure what he told the boys, but my goodness, they got Real Madrid shaken for Vinicius Junior's penalty.
Yeah, what a game. Breathtaking. It's what the Champions League's made of. And it's what when you hear Bayern, Real Madrid, Barca Bayern, Liverpool Madrid, these are the kind of games you want to watch. And
Chelsea.
Don't be silly. and to be honest, the Champions League didn't kick off up until the quarterfinals. We had a very horrible group stage. Round of 16 was boring and poor. Then the quarterfinal gave us some games that were spectacular. Then it's carried on into the semis as well. In fact, the PSG Dortmund game was also very captivating. But back to the game at the Allianz Arena, a couple of things. It's Real Madrid when they play in the Champions League. The thing with Madrid is nobody really knows how Madrid wants to play because every game for them can be different. And that is largely because they tend to be reactive first and then be proactive, having studied their opponent. So when you watch Madrid play against Man City, they were somewhat slow in the way they started, then reacted to the way City were playing, and in reacting to it became proactive to play their own game. And it's the same thing Real Madrid have done over the years. So everybody's saying they've been lucky, but listen, to be able to play the way Madrid plays in Champions League, you need to be smart and intelligent enough to read your opponent and get going. So many teams don't even know how to plan against Real Madrid because they can use Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, Cruz, everybody for different things. Because there are times Valverde is playing like a winger and there are times he's playing in the midfield. So how do you plan for him? There are times Vinicius Jr. is playing, hugging the line, and there are times he's coming in very narrow. So how do you plan for him? So that is why Real Madrid are a very difficult team to predict how they are going to turn up. But I thought Bayern Munich shocked me in the way they started. And in the first 15 minutes or so, it was clear. The game plan was simple. It was to keep Real Madrid from finding any level of control. Because when Real Madrid are going to find control, they don't find that control in the opponent's final third. It's very deep in their own half. So what Thomas Tuchel did was to play the 2-2-6. The two at the back were the two centre-backs, Dyer and Kim Min-jae. Then Lima and Goretzka, the two central midfielders, were right in front of those two centre-backs. If you saw how Mazraoui and Kimmich were so high up the pitch, they were actually sticking into the wide area. So what we saw was Musiala, who was on the right, and then Leroy Sané, who was on the left, were not playing as wingers. Because those wide areas were occupied by the fullbacks. So we saw Sané coming narrow into the half space, Musiala same, and then very much Hurricane and Müller playing as the two top. Now that created problems for Real Madrid because Lucas Vazquez, Ferland Mendy couldn't get out. Rudiger and Nacho were very busy. And that meant that because of the extra wide players that had gone with the fullbacks, Real Madrid's midfield, in Valverde and in Tchouaméni and Toni Kroos had to retreat. So in the first 15 minutes or so, Bayern used numerical advantage to carve Madrid open. In fact, they had about 6 shots to Madrid 0 in the first 15 minutes, but the finishing was lacking. So Carlo changed something about his game. And what Madrid were struggling to do was to find control. And I tweeted it during the game that the only thing Madrid needs now is to find a little bit of control. And in controlling the game with the ball, I meant not off the ball. You can control games off the ball, but with the ball. So the few spells that Real Madrid had with the ball was when Bayern had the problems. Now the moments Real Madrid they always tried Toni Kroos, the Madrid players. Everybody kept giving the ball to him. And the moment Kroos got into the spaces where he could affect the game, even Bayern knew it could be dangerous. So the fullbacks who were very high when Bayern had the ball now went a little deeper. So you saw Kimmich go into the right back place, Mazraoui go into the left back place. Then the midfielder sat in the DM rows. But the point then is, when you play against Real Madrid and you have the quality of Vinicius Jr., the quality of Toni Kroos, you can have a perfect system, but just one mistake, you can be punished for it. And that is the efficiency this Real Madrid team have got. So it was just one mistake. And the reason Kim Min-jae made a mistake, it's a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
But it was in line with the sequence of the game. Because of how high the fullbacks had gone at the start of the game, it was for him to be very close to Vini all the time, so that Vini can turn against him and everything. But the one time that he misjudged, because he had the back line in place, he had his DMs in place, he misjudged and followed Vini. Vini spin past him, Toni Kroos saw the pass and played the ball through 1-0 Real Madrid. I'm thinking Kim should have passed Vini on. Call Lima, call Gretzka. He's coming into midfield. Mark him, tackle him, take him on. But he instead followed and broke that defensive line. And when Kroos saw the line, the space behind, reading the run of Vini, he played that ball through. Then into the second half, briefly on what I thought Thomas Tuchel did great, and what I thought also gave them the caused Madrid problem before Madrid could react. Into the second half, Thomas Tuchel sees what Real Madrid are doing when they've got the ball, and realizes that now Real Madrid have reacted to the 2-2-6. So you need to change something. What he does now is to keep the fullbacks in Kimmich right back, Mazraoui left back, in their natural positions a bit deeper, and now bring on Guerrero for Gretzka. In bringing on Guerrero, he placed Lima behind Guerrero and Thomas Müller, who now are playing as free eights. So Müller is into the channel in the right hand space, and then into the half space on the right, and then Guerrero is into the half space on the left. What that did was then to push Musiala, and he swapped Musiala and Sane on the wings. So now that he's got the fullbacks deeper, and he's got his 2 number 8s in the half space, the typical natural wingers go to the width. So we saw Sane starting very wide. We saw Musiala starting very wide in that second half, and that is how they got their goals, because Sane would play in his more natural position. He will be aggressive when he has the ball on the turn, and because of Muller's presence in the half space, Ferland Mendy is, and there was a great overlapping run by Kimmich as well. Now he's occupied with where to go. Sane cuts in and scores. Muller gets the ball in the number 8 position, the free 8 position in that channel, sends the ball to Jamal Musiala, cuts in, Vasquez brings him down. It is 2-1 from the penalty. So it was great reaction by Thomas Tuchel. But then as soon as he got the 2-1 lead, he stopped playing that way and properly played the 4-2-3-1 system, where this time Guerrero is not playing as a free 8, but Guerrero comes in as a second number 6 alongside Lima. Once that happened, Real Madrid were not being confronted with the early challenges they had in the early parts of the second half. And you know, Madrid being Madrid in the Champions League, some way, somehow, out of nothing, Vinicius just side boots some ball into Rodrigo, and Kim Min-jae again, overly aggressive, brings him down for 2-2. The game is still very much alive. It's going to go to Madrid. Madrid are looking favourites, but Bayern have shown that if Sane and Musiala can be on their game, they can cause the problem they caused at the Allianz Arena. But it was a brilliant game.
Yeah, it was a brilliant game. Of course, for Bayern themselves, Thomas Tuchel, he will leave at the end of the season, and will be looking to leave with a trophy. They've missed out on the Bundesliga, likewise the DFB Pokal. If they don't win the Champions League, they're going to go trophyless. So they're hoping they can get something for Thomas Tuchel. Even for Bayern Munich themselves, Ralf Rangnick, whom they were hoping to replace, well, Thomas Tuchel has declined the job. But actually, it's just a game between Paris Saint-Germain and Borussia Dortmund. You did the commentary on that game. It was a very difficult night for Paris Saint-Germain because it's fair to say they created the chances, but they simply could not convert it. And at some point, they were just unlucky because there was a sequence where they literally, Mbappe hit the post, and was it Ashraf Hakimi also hit the post?
Yeah.
They were simply unlucky on the day.
After seeing the game again, I think Dortmund should have won by a wider margin, as opposed to PSG getting anything from it. Dortmund has the clearest of the chances. I think of all of those opportunities, the one you would say was a clear-cut chance for PSG, was two actually. The Dembele chance that he scuffed, and then the first of Fabian Ruiz's header.
Yeah.
The first of the two headers. But after Dortmund scored, Fulkrug had a second chance from Jaden Sancho's cutback that he failed to convert. We also have the chance that fell to Sabitzer that he shot straight at the goalkeeper. And then the chance...
Fulkrug had a header that he could have also done better with.
So Fulkrug missed two chances after scoring.
Yeah.
And then the chance that fell to Julian Brandt, that was blocked by Marquinhos. So on the balance of play, look, PSG had the ball, but Dortmund really carved them open on more occasions than they did. I was very impressed because, the pre-match talk was all about how PSG had the personnel and the profile of players to profit from what many thought were the perceived frailties or the weaknesses in the Dortmund team, in the sense that it was assumed that Schlotterbeck and then Matamos relatively were not the quickest, and that either centre-backs and the full-back, so Ian Madsen and then Schlotterbeck, Matamos and then Ryerson, did not have enough pace between them. And that was significant because we assumed that Ousmane Dembele or Kylian Mbappe was going to be able to profit from that.
Yeah.
But what we saw was a team that was able to force PSG to occupy zones that they were not comfortable, and more importantly, allowed their centre-backs always to have the right protection. For me, the most impressive thing was how they doubled up in the wide areas and ensured that even when the full-backs were exposed in 1v1 situations with the PSG winger, there is always a Dortmund midfielder or one of the wingers in Jaden Sancho or Adeyemi dropping deeper and ensuring that they doubled up on them and neutralized that threat. And that's why until I think about the 62nd minute, we didn't really see any of the PSG wide players getting behind the defenders.
And there was a lot of concern about the role that Kylian Mbappe was deployed into, and even when
it simply comes down to the stubbornness of Luis Enrique. I don't understand why he persists with playing Mbappe in the central areas. The player notoriously has said he does not enjoy it. When he played that position briefly for the French team a few years ago, he looked badly off colour and complained. Eventually, he was reverted to type. At PSG, he has complained that that's not his best position. What's more, player for player, he is far more useful down the wings than whatever Barcola is going to give you. He's a significant upgrade. It's not even a match. And also, you have someone, Gonzalo Ramos, who is a more natural centre forward, great at holding up play and bringing his teammates into play, and someone that you could actually, just like Giroud does with Mbappe could bounce the ball off and then play off him and get into those spaces and then profit. Look, throughout the game, PSG failed to crack Dortmund until Mbappe peeled away from his position, moved to occupy those half spaces in between the right fullback, and then Matamos. So clearly, you could tell what PSG were missing when that did not happen. Yes, they had possession in nice areas, but the relevant combinations that has served them so well in the league this season, in the Champions League, were all things that Dortmund were able to short circuit. Final point on the goal. I thought it was excellent improvisation from Nico Schlotterbeck. We know centre backs can hit that pass, but the more you watch the replay of that, the more you fall in love with what the young man did. He was under pressure. His initial instinct was not to hit that pass. He was pressed. He checked back onto his left, and then he hit the pass. So to have the presence of mind and even the vision to be able to spot him, apply the right, because the pass was so good that Fulkrug needed just one touch. And Fulkrug himself scored 4 marks because he had to check his offside positioning, get his touch excellently, and hit that shot so cleanly that
so clean.
Even though the
So
goalkeeper
good.
saw it coming, he hit it very early, and it took away the opportunity of the goalkeeper to save it, because he's very tall goalkeeper. That's not really, and tall goalkeepers typically don't get down low very quickly. And so when you hit a first time shot and it's that good and it's not too close for them to use their feet to block it, you have a great chance. I think it's still a very open tie for Dortmund, but back in Paris, PSG should have the advantage.
Well, I'm going to come to Mufti on whether the outcome of the games this week will give us an idea of the teams that will qualify to the final. But let me come to Fent on Fent. If you can hear me, just if you can just connect with me. Let me just come to you on the
Fent in the chill. See the way they lie down. Fent.
Hey, thank you.
See this guy.
Hey, he's
on the island, Charlie. Enjoy.
When I grow up,
thought you guys
A week or two from now, ECG will be disconnected.
You guys brought me in just to talk athletics.
Oh yeah, but no, we just want to.
So I'm relaxing now. You are calling me like your son.
Anyway, just a bit on the controversy surrounding Jaden Sancho. I just wanted you to touch on that because there are those who have suggested that. I mean, the reason why he's performing at the level that he's performing at Dortmund was because of the conditions he found himself at Manchester United. Eric Ten Hag has been commented on his performance. He said, "This is why we bought him." I mean, and then you had Borussia Dortmund putting out a very, sarcastic tweet. He said, "We
Very
have
lovely
always
tweet.
been familiar with his form." Very, very interesting. tweet.
Apologize.
Yeah.
I found that very funny. Yeah, people owe Jaden Sancho an apology. To be fair to Eric Ten Hag, look, I'm not his biggest fan. But the truth is that I don't think Jaden Sancho was doing well. And Man United fans will be the first to admit that he wasn't doing great. Is it part of the manager's job to ensure that he improves? Yes. But the manager is also under pressure for results. So, the reason I can understand a lot of the frustration with Eric Ten Hag is that the kind of patience he's shown for other players in a similar situation as Jaden Sancho, aka Anthony, he didn't show the same patience with Jaden Sancho. So where is the consistency in treatment? And that is where I think even Jaden Sancho himself would feel hard done by, and why United fans or some people would criticize Eric Ten Hag. But the truth is that I don't think Sancho himself did himself any big favors. He wasn't doing well at United. He was badly out of form, out of shape. And so I think this loan was exactly where he needed to be. And to be honest, maybe sometimes some clubs are just not, or some people are just not meant to be in certain clubs. So the environment is good for him. He's very familiar with his team, with the players there. Maybe it's the kind of football he actually thrived in as well. Jaden Sancho didn't become Jaden Sancho by playing English football. He became Jaden Sancho by thriving in the German system. It is a system that thrives on a lot of movement and a lot of touches. He had 99 touches in the game yesterday. I don't think that most touches he's ever had in a game at Man United, way less than that. And so for Eric Ten Hag, a manager that was supposed to have a system that played very similar to what he's enjoying at Dortmund, has not played anything remotely close to that. So, I can understand why he struggled. And genuinely, I think that, he's not the first player that would go to a place and it doesn't work out, and his former place is just where it works out. There are some players that are just built like that. They only thrive in certain environments, in certain teams. There's so many the big differences in the style of football, but even also most importantly, the environment and the pressure. I don't think that Jaden Sancho, maybe he didn't anticipate that he would be under such scrutiny at Manchester United. Because I think that maybe Achu and Sucho will back me up on this, but I think Jaden Sancho, some of the things he was criticized for at Man United, he did them at Dortmund, even before he signed for United. maybe turning up for training late and all those other things. There were things that he did at Borussia Dortmund, but they were never in the public limelight and they were never scrutinized as much as they were at Manchester United. United, without a doubt, is the biggest club in England, one of the biggest in the world. So the pressure that it comes with playing there is different, and everything will be taken through a magnifying glass. So maybe mentally he's just not prepared for that. He's gone to Dortmund where there's less scrutiny, so and the environment is more accommodating. There's less pressure, so he's thriving in such an environment. Can United create that for him? Absolutely not. It's not possible. I think if Sancho cannot adjust to the Manchester United pressure, the Manchester United environment, and the demands that come with playing for Man United, then maybe it's best that the two clubs just cut their losses, because at the moment, it looks like he's thriving in an environment like Dortmund, and so far he hasn't worked out at Manchester United. I guarantee you, if he comes back under the same manager, it's not going to work out.
Interesting. I mean, guys, I'm going to come to Mufti now, but there was this interesting tweet that Daniel Cranton put out. I think that was yesterday. He says Sancho's beef isn't with Manchester United, but with Erik ten Hag. Last I checked, Erik ten Hag is not Manchester United. Sack him and bring our star boy home. After, pay Dortmund extra for them to take Rashford. Lastly, return the captain's armband to the true captain, Maggie.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
But Sancho did not only leave because of the feud or whatever spat with Erik ten Hag. I think that independent of, even if they had not fallen out, there was going to, if United were a serious club, they would review his 3 years and look at whether or not he needed a contract extension. If he did not satisfy the conditions per his performance for a contract extension, the option would be consider a loan or to transfer him. And that is how all of these elite clubs operate. When you sign your contract, it does not guarantee you that just by virtue of signing the contract, you are going to play for the club every day of your life until the contract or the expiration of the contract. The reality with Jaden Sancho was that he had been massively underwhelming in the 3 years that he's been at Manchester United. Whatever happened with Erik ten Hag only ended up sort of fast-tracking that process, because, and I don't think it's even an issue of being a cultural misfit, or if anything, I think it was purely technical, because Man United have misprofiled him from the day he stepped foot at Old Trafford. He is a player, like Fence said, who operates in a very unique environment. And if you look at the way he plays at Dortmund, it's very different from how even England use him in the national team. Manchester United have not really been able to make sense of a lot of players and the quality or the tactical context within which they can thrive. And I think Sancho is just one in a long list of the team. What sort of football do they even play?
What about you, see? The reason why I go back to the reason, I think it's mainly Erik ten Hag, based on what Danny Cranton posted. Because there is another player who is playing in the position where Sancho can play. Irrespective of the instruction, that player is not playing any better, and that player was Anthony. Anthony is worse than Sancho.
Yeah, but
Anthony is a terrible. 2
years before Ten Hag came.
No, Ten Hag gave everybody a clean slate. Otherwise, several players shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the guy has been there for 3 years.
Yes.
2 of those years were before Ten Hag.
Yes.
And he still didn't hack it. What we saw under Ten Hag was essentially a continuation of what was before.
But I'm saying that, yes, 2 years before that, and Ten Hag brings in a player who is worse than Sancho. You see, that is what we put on. Sancho's problem was with the fact that, and the manager goes on to say Sancho doesn't train well. If Anthony trains well and turns up on match days and plays what he plays, and Sancho doesn't play well but plays better than Anthony, then what do you term as working hard or training? And for the manager to have thrown the player under the bus like he did, the player called it lies. Yeah, everybody's taking sides of the manager, and I wouldn't have responded like Sancho did, but he did, and he wasn't backing down. Primarily, his problem was with the manager and the fact that the manager hadn't been fair, because for so long, several players were losing their places in the team. But for Anthony, who was the worst performing player in the team, and I'm saying that puts Anthony there, puts Sancho here. Sancho is by miles, like by far. Anthony just scored his first goal in a year in the Premier League for Man United when they beat. Who did they beat? They drew against Burnley at Old Trafford. That has been the problem of Jaden Sancho. And for me, I agree with Fent that the Sancho issue with United is one of those where I think that he's talented, he's a brilliant footballer, but maybe he's not meant for a club like Man United.
Those things I don't believe.
No, I do.
If they get a coach
Yes.
who can, for the longest time, United has not been home for any kind of player. Is there maybe people have not paid attention? Is there any group of players who are thriving at Manchester United? They can't coach, and that is the problem. They can't because look, the reality is this. When we look at these players and we assume that he's a midfielder, play him with another midfielder and it has to work. It doesn't work that way. There are like when we come here, you see the way they prepare, the HR will prepare your job description for you based on your unique set of skills and your talent. That is how it works in the football space as well.
Yeah, true. I get that. I get the fact that maybe it is possible that it is. I get it that Man United have not had a lot of players thriving and playing to the best of their abilities. But the thing is, for most of those players who have left Man United, wherever they went, they were not brilliant as well.
Yeah.
They either went and they didn't play enough or they got injured. And I remember Jose Mourinho even said it. That when you look at the quality of players United have bought and the players that they've sold, look at where they are playing, having sold them. But Jaden Sancho is a different example because having left Man United in the same season, midway through the season, and gone to Dortmund, he's performing way better than he had played at Man United. And I'm saying that for Sancho, maybe he's not cut for the demands and the pressure at Man United. Maybe, just maybe. Because it's not only Ten Hag. Under Jose, under Ole, he was very inconsistent. Right? And that has nothing to do with Eric Ten Hag. Maybe he's that kind of player who will thrive in, like Fencho said, in an environment like Dortmund.
Yeah.
But at Manchester United and what the club demands of players, maybe he won't, because attitudinal issues, the whole structure and culture at the club, the manager himself. If I were Sancho and if I were United, I'm looking at making a deal. Get the boy out of the club, make some money, cut your losses, and move on.
Yeah, well, that's the guys there. Well, definitely going to be talking so much about Jaden Sancho in the course of the weekend. There's going to be Sports Link and Sports Arena, but we need to try and wrap up. We need to try and wrap up. So, next week, just make a date with us for that second leg of the Champions League semi-final, because there's going to be so much that will be happening at the Heritage Bar and Kaitas. Mufti, is it Kaitas or Kitas Launch? Which one is it?
People who know the place, people who have been to the place to enjoy, say it's Qatar's Lounge.
Qatar's Lounge.
Yes.
Okay, Qatar's Lounge.
But those of us who don't know, we say Kitas.
Okay. All right. Well, there is also a boxing bout that will be happening tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's
As well,
an
now say exhibition fight.
Yeah. Tomorrow, right?
Yeah. May 4.
At the Go Boxing Arena, and we'll try and speak to Yao City. Briefly on that. But there's also a situation at Accra to folk because of their, and we'll try and speak to Yao City on that, on the Azuman Nelson and the European ambassador to Ghana's, exhibition bout. We'll try and speak briefly on that. But there's the situation about Accra Heart of Folk and what they're going through. Mufti, just, what has happened to Accra Heart of Folk?
Oh, they've just taken the baton from Kotakoda, so.
How? What is happening to them? What's the state of the club?
Clearly, you take a look at their results in the last 6 games, and you're wondering if indeed these are Accra Heart of Folk that won the Premier League just 3 seasons ago, right? Yeah. You commentated on that when they won the Ghana Premier League. And House of Folk of late, they've been struggling. Even when Abubakar Wataras took over the job, his first 4 games were very good. Then all of a sudden, they started to capitulate. They started to fall like ripe mangoes. And you're wondering what actually the problem is.
And there was an interesting scene of him explaining what happened.
Yes, in fact,
and even attributing the team's loss to doom. So
now when at the hotel there was no light, there was no water, but all those things, when players are not able to sleep throughout the night, right? And you wake up, your body doesn't feel okay. And if your body is not okay, I'm not sure you go out there and produce the right result. So,
but subsequent to that, I mean, they came to Accra. They were
it's not entirely out of place if he says that prior to the game we didn't have light, prior to the game we didn't have water in our hotel.
But subsequent to that game, they haven't performed.
You see, you are looking at a team that over the years they had a certain caliber of players who were producing results. And I can say this with all certainty. Since Samuel Boadu left House of Oak, this team hasn't been itself. They haven't been themselves because I think that the caliber of players that they had and the caliber of players who have come in after Samuel Boadu, these players have not been able to raise the bar and meet the demands of playing for a club like House of Oak. That's why the results are so. They are zigzag. Today they are here, tomorrow they are there. And in the last 6 games, 5 defeats. You really expect that from House of Oak. But because we saw that from their brothers in Kumasi, Kotoko just handed the baton over to them. Make you also lose some.
And they've been having some very terrible situations with their goalkeepers.
Atu, who is a very good House of Oak supporter. So that when you look at his face and look at why you are there, you want to wait till they happen.
You know what is happening. Well, let's just connect with Yao Suchi now ahead of that, boxing bout between Azuma Nelson and the European ambassador to Ghana, that exhibition boxing bout. Yao, thank you for making time with us. Hello, Yao, you can hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great.
To the guys in the studio and to our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, good afternoon, Yao. Just what's the latest on the bout? Is the Zoom himself ready for the bout?
Zoom is ready. He's not ready to kill anybody. I just quickly need to put on record that this is an event by the European Union in Ghana. It's something they do every May as part of the European Union month. And this year they decided to throw a spotlight on boxing. And they thought that it would be best to have the professor as part of it, just to, draw attention to the celebration. And also to throw some support and encourage the young boxers in Bukom. So the ambassador reached out, who for the record is not a boxer, but loves boxing, reached out that he would like to do an exhibition with Azuma. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, we were at his residence, just to go through some motions, because I said to him that what we should prevent is come Monday will be headline on my Joe Online that Azuma kills an ambassador. Ghana has too many problems. We can't add that to it. So it's a friendly bout to promote boxing in Bukom and to raise some support for the young boxers in Ghana.
Let's just talk about, patronage for the event. How is it like? Is it like a free gate event, or people have to buy some ticket to come watch it?
It is free. It's free to public. But on Sunday at one of the press conferences, they mentioned that to be able to raise funds to support the boxers, they're going to charge 5 Ghana cedis at the gate. So that's almost free. So 5 Ghana cedis. But of course, because this involves the diplomatic community, there are special VIP passes for executives like yourselves in the studio. And so if you're interested in being part of it, you may want to reach out after the event. But it's open to the general public, just 5 Ghana City. Come support, young boxers and the development of boxing in Ghana.
Well, we definitely going to be there. We're going to be there. And, all the best to you and the team. And, of course, we are looking forward to an exciting bout come this weekend. So, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much also. That's Yao Suchi there. And, of course, we want to make your way to the Bukom Boxing Arena for that bout. We want to see the professor himself in action. Well, we need to wrap up, but there's an interesting development relative to the CAF Confederations Cup semi-final, which USM Orges and RS Berkane were engaged in. We understand CAF awarded the points and the qualification to RS Berkane, but USM Orges themselves have taken CAF to CAS because of that decision. Achu, just briefly, what's happening there?
I think it's the Algerian Football Federation who have filed the case on behalf of USM Orges and against CAF and against RS Berkane as well. Now, they are appealing CAF's decision to award 3 goals and a win to RS Berkane for the reverse fixture. Last weekend they were supposed to, and they were in Morocco for the second leg of that semi-final CAF Confederation Cup tie versus Berkane. But just like Berkane did a week before, they also refused to come out of the changing rooms for the match. The week before that, the Algerian customs had seized RS Berkane's jersey when they went to Algeria for the first leg of that affair. So they decided that they were also not going to leave the changing rooms for kickoff, and so they stayed in the changing rooms and did not play the match. The reason for the Algerian Customs move was that the Berkane jersey has a political emblem, a motif in the chest area, which is a map of Western Sahara, a disputed area in between Algeria and then Morocco. Morocco control, I think, about 80% of that area. So having that sort of emblem in the jersey is what is problematic. CAF should have allowed or approved that jersey for even use in the competition, but they've allowed it. The Algerians felt offended by it, and so they seized the equipment and the jerseys and all of that. So it is because of that Berkane refused to play that match, and CAF ruled in their favor when USM all just pulled the same stance. CAF now said, "Nah, you can't do that.
You can't do that." Interesting.
You can't do that. So they have been eliminated from the competition, but they and the Algerian FA have filed a case at CAS. CAS yesterday in a statement acknowledged that and said they would look into that particular matter. So we'll see what happens, but it's very unlikely that they are going to overturn that particular decision. But you cannot overlook the substance of the case that CAF have deliberately admitted a jersey that contravenes their own regulations on political messaging and provocative messaging in the sports.